Battle Warrior podcast is kicking back in gear. I am in Oshkosh. We are in the Venture Project studio, guys, and we're going to come at you with a lot of big time guests. So stay tuned, guys. New content coming soon. See ya. But hey guys, welcome to Battle Warrior Podcast. This is Chad, and we have this great guest coming all the way from, I'm going to say the mountains. We'll just keep the town off. But welcome to the podcast, Rachel Shumway.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And the reason, guys, why we brought her on here, is we're just going to keep it simple, is I like the Badass Academy. and you're coaching, and we started getting into it. Like I said, I have your profile here on the left-hand side, but like the biggest things that I love from it right now is faith, fitness, and friendship. So tell everyone, obviously you have a coaching business, but also we have the academy, but tell everyone why or what the academy is all about.
Yeah, so the academy is all about empowering women. I mean, I do work with men as well, but I focus mainly on women to achieve their big goal. And a lot of times that involves fitness. Sometimes it can be a weight loss goal or a bodybuilding, or I have a CrossFit background, so there's some of that as well. Or it can be a business thing, creating a new side hustle, moving up in your career, or having deeper relationships, be that romantic or friendships, just kind of showing up in full confidence and acceptance of all of the weird, crazy things that you are, and really loving into that. I believe a big part of doing that is through faith. I have a Christian background, but I also know that spirituality and faith kind of takes different forms at different times in life. So allowing people to explore that and have it be something that doesn't necessarily need to be fixed all of their lives, but navigating their faith and their spirituality in an organic fashion as life throws them curveballs and gives them an opportunity to reevaluate and question and dig in a little bit deeper to who they are and how they want to practice their faith.
And I'm smiling when you said that, and this is a repeated pattern with my podcast here, but the thing that I've noticed, especially since I was born again a couple of years ago, is the further along the journey you go, the more the curveballs come. Mm-hmm. And the more you get, I'm going to say in sync, but when you're in sync with the spirituality, and my tongue is sticking right now, and then also with your faith combined, and the spirit comes in, it's just insane when people are like, oh, it's getting easy. It's like, no, life gets harder.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
yeah, in many ways, I think that that's true. On one hand, I think because when you are relying on faith and not just on your own gusto, if you will, you go for bigger things, which means that life gets harder because you're going for bigger things. It's stirring the pot and bringing up all of the bullshit that you tell yourself all the time, right? And at the same time, I think for those of us that do have an active spiritual practice, we start to kind of crave that a little bit as well. Subconsciously, I think we want to deepen our connection with God or universe, whatever that may be. And I think innately we know that growth is a big part of that process. So we're more willing to go through difficult things because we believe that we can handle it. And then we get better at handling it, the more obstacles that we need to go to. We build resilience.
Yeah. And the biggest word, what's coming in my mind is how we're explaining all this is get rid of the perceptions. So like public perception, family perceptions, and all that stuff. And obviously, yes, faith is number one for me. Faith is number two, number one for you too. But I think the further along is it's a two-way street. So it's like, yeah, faith makes you go bigger, but also your own personal battle of dropping the perceptions.
Yeah, or certainly the need to rely on external perceptions of you in order to have a solid identity, because your identity becomes more rooted, if you will, in who you are naturally, just by your innate, divine, messy humanness. And you become more secure in that because you realize like, you can be messy, you can be super weird, you can have all of these things that are quote unquote wrong with you and still have an incredible life that's filled with service and love and connection. and kind of, you know, people's ideas of what is right and what is wrong and who you should be. It's really just their own story.
And we're all weird. And like
Oh
I
my
said,
gosh, yeah. I just got back from Comic-Con in Salt Lake last weekend, and I met some of the weirdest weirdos of my whole life, but it's so fun, right? To be able to go and see the weird in other people and have that be like, oh my gosh, you're right. We are all weird. We just are all under the impression that it's wrong to be so, and to show it in certain ways. So it's so fun to watch people come out of their shells and just go all sorts of crazy.
and I'm kind of a wrestling fan, and they're almost like that too. Like the Comic-Con people kind of overlap into the wrestling world, and it's like an escapism. It's they feel so free doing that stuff.
Mm.
It just seems like when they're in their suits or when they're watching that or whatever it is they just feel like they could fly.
Yeah, isn't that so paradoxical? Because it's like you're acting like somebody else, and yet you feel so free. But it's because the part of you that is that character is able to fully express. And most often, the part of you that is in that character is something that you are, yeah, like you said, escaping in real life. So it's kind of like, oh, finally, this part of me gets to breathe and connect, which is such an important thing that we have as humans, is just the desire to connect and talk about and explore different ideas and energies as well.
And this is where we're going to lead into like the mental health in the workplace. And I'm going to say it this way. So like for many years, I don't know if it's like this over by you, but I know Colorado is a lot more open than the Midwest at certain things. But the mental health was not talked about. And secondly, like bosses would always say, hey, that's not what we want. Like act this way. Or like the parents say, hey, that's not what we want. Act this way. And the thing that I'm noticing is a lot of the people that are struggling with that don't have an outlet versus like people that go on the other side of the fence or like went through the fence and jumped on the other side like us. Once that you have that outlet, life gets way better.
Yeah, I mean, it does get better. And then similar to faith, it also gets more difficult. I mean, mental health in Colorado, I think it's changed significantly in the last 10 years, but when I was growing up, certainly there was still a significant amount of like stigma and challenges with talking about it. I grew up in a family, very fortunately, that was like Brene Brown fans and like, let's talk about vulnerability, let's talk about emotions, let's like voice our opinions freely yet respectfully. And like my parents went to therapy and they like took me to therapy when I was younger. I think the hardest thing actually was for me the ADHD. So like growing up in a school, right, it's like you can't focus, you can't do school right, like you can't learn, you're stupid, all of those kinds of things. And so that kind of led me into quite a long time battle with depression, because I was taught that everything that I was doing was wrong. I couldn't focus, I couldn't learn, I was stupid. And then it was like, all right, whatever, like who cares, my brain is just broken. And so I think with that in mind, like if I would have lived in a city that didn't have such a quote unquote open like atmosphere towards learning and growing and mental rehabilitation, which I don't like the word rehabilitation in my case, because there was nothing wrong with me to begin with. It was just, I don't like to sit in a classroom, like, but it would have been significantly more difficult for me. And it probably would have led to a lot more destructive, like adult or how do you say it? Adolescent behaviors if I didn't have such a supportive family. So I think that plays a big part in it too, is just like the city you're in, obviously, but like your parents and your siblings.
You can't tell right now because my brain, I'm actually calmed down just for the sake of what I went through the last couple of days, but I'm wide open ADHD. I'm actually
it's awesome,
nuts.
isn't it?
I
Being
love
an
it.
adult with ADHD, it's so fun.
I love it. And the way I look at it right now is it's amazing superpower. And the thing about it, like once you fully grasp it and you dig into it, you understand like the things that you're very passionate about, you absorb in it way faster.
Yeah.
And you're all in. It's I don't want to use the term like air quote addicting personality, because that's not a negative way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're passionate about something, we learn everything about it.
Yeah, it's like I like to imagine it's like most of the world sits in this like compartment of my brain that's like boring as hell. I don't care.
Yeah.
And then there's this little corner in my brain where it's like all of the interest that would normally sit in that bucket is just like buzzing around over here. And so, yeah, I can stay in something for hours and just research and learn and take in all of this information and connect the dots between the strangest ideas. And then when I'm done, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so fun. Like, give me more. And so it's like, maybe for like quote unquote normal people / just people that don't have neurodiversity in the way of ADHD, it seems very sporadic. Like I had a lot of therapists tell me like, I think you're bipolar. Like, I'm not bipolar. I don't have that one. I just don't care about math. And I really want to learn about like music. And that's all. So sorry.
Music is, so I'm actually very parallel with you, and I'm trying not to smile how I say this. So like, I'm explaining it this way, how my ADHD works with music. So like, I'm a big, I got raised up on Van Halen, or like a lot of the Aussies. So like the rock scene.
Okay.
So like GNR, all like those rock bands in the 70s and 80s. So like music was huge in my mom's side. So a lot of them were all percussionists. So when I would look at is, even though I don't drum right now, I would look at, okay, this is where his foot would hit. This is the angle of the cymbal. My weird things was guitar rigs. So like what the guy hooked up with the guitar. So it'd be like, okay, pedal A, B, C, D, E, F, G into this amp, into this.
It's like a full body thing for you.
Yes. And I look at it as, and even in like tournament fishing, hunting, I'm not that way. Hunting is more, my brain shuts off. So I'm just like, I really don't care. Like I'm laid back, do whatever. But when it comes to fishing, it's the weight's got to be in this, compartment in the boat, because the weight differential in the boat. I'm not an engineer, but it's a common sense approach of saying, okay, something's not right, we got to move it, or vice versa. So it's like my brain has to kind of like analyze it out and lay it out, and then kind of reverse engineer it back. So be like, okay, I have all this stuff. So now let's place it where I want it, where my brain can wrap around it. And
totally. Yeah. It's like you take in all of this information and then you let it marinate, and then you just kind of like regurgitate it. And somehow like it all makes sense at the end of the day, but like there's no linear logical process to kind of teasing through things. It's just like, I don't know, man, my brain just like lets it sit, and then when I come back to it, everything makes sense. Yeah.
And do you probably have the same answer with people ask you straight out, be like, how do you process all this stuff, or how can you handle all this stuff? So I'm gonna say stuff. So like with me, it's working full time, plus clothing, plus everything else I'm doing on the side hustle, plus the business stuff. Everyone's like, how do you maintain that? I'm like, I just know I need to check in and out on certain things with the ADHD. So it'd be like, I have 7 things on my desk, but I know by the end of the night, all 7 things will be done.
Yeah. So like, it's kind of like trusting, right? And also knowing, I feel like some people have this image, right, of like, you're just spinning and juggling all of these plates at the same time, but it's like, no, I have 2 or 3 plates in front of me at a time. I don't worry about the other plates until it's time for me to notice it. So like a schedule actually for me is very, very helpful. I know a lot of people that have ADD, ADHD are like, yep, nope, calendar's not for me. But I really like to have that there to help me keep track of everything. I also am like, what's the word? I'm cutthroat with saying no. If there's something that doesn't seem interesting to me, like, no, I'm just not going to do it. For a while, it was like writing blogs or something. It was like, yeah, people were like, yeah, you should write a blog. You'd be so good at it. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to. Sounds like a time suck. It's just like my body knows. It's like, nope, you don't want to do that right now. So like, okay, I don't.
I have a blog option on my website. I haven't even written one right now. But what I'll do is I'll write a book instead. So it's just weird.
And if that's what's interesting to you, then it doesn't really like deplete your energy, right? Because it's interesting to you, and interest in the brain is like the fuel for the fire. If it's interesting to you, you can go for days and like, okay, yeah, we probably should sleep, probably want to sleep. But there are some times that I get an idea and I'm like, yeah, it's time to sleep right now, but I really want to work on it. Tomorrow's going to suck because I'm not going to be able to sleep. But the reality is I can't sleep. My brain needs me to like get this idea out. And so it does. And then it always like, the more you trust the strategy, and I'll say this too, for people that have ADHD or normal people, like flat out, learning your energy patterns, learning the way that your brain works around certain tasks, learning how to manage your time, manage your energy, delegate is one of the most important skills that you can ever have. Because when you do that, when you're able to trust yourself in your process, trust that everything that needs to get done is going to get done. If it doesn't get done, it's probably because it wasn't the most important thing. And you can always go back and like learn a new way, tweak a couple things in the way that you spend your time, where your energy is going. And if something isn't working, then that isn't something that like you need to get fixated on and like, oh my gosh, this is terrible, I hate this. It's like, how is this discomfort here for me? What is it trying to teach me? So like, I'll give you an example of that is when I first really started calendaring things out, I put a lot, way too much on my calendar, like more than is humanly possible for like 3 humans. And I would get it done. I would do all of it, but I would feel so anxious and overwhelmed. And in the beginning, it was like, what is wrong with you that you can't do all of these things and you feel anxious about it? But then when you flip it around and you ask yourself, how is this for me? It's like, okay, this anxiety is actually a message that I'm probably doing too much. I'm doing a lot of stuff that I don't want to be doing. I can lean down here instead of looking at like everything that you're doing as something that's like a challenge to be overcome or something that's wrong or broken with you. But it's like, no, what can I learn from this obstacle? In a way of looking at it of like, I know what I need to do. I can trust myself. This isn't working for me. How can I work with myself, partnering with my brain, partnering with my body, and also, you know, deciding what things I'm going to be saying no to from now on so that I can say yes to myself and the life that I actually want to be creating.
Yeah. I'm not even going to go any further because you just hit the magic right there.
Sorry, that was a really long soapbox rant, but it's so important.
No.
So much time on thinking about like how our life is going to be amazing next year, but it's like, you got to start that right now. Start building that trust, start having that fierce commitment to this is the life that I want and building it now. Otherwise it's not going to happen.
Some days not on the calendar, people. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the way I look at it is pick a day and run. And like I said, prior to recording, there's some things that are going to be launching on my end, 1-1, just for on the book wise. And we'll just keep that off the podcast because it's not public yet on that. But for me, looking at it is, yes, I have certain things going right now. There's certain things I want to launch right now, but I'm like, you know what? That's going to blend in perfect at the 1-1 time frame. Mm-hmm. So like, there's a few things I did remove out of my schedule right now because I was like you, I was 3 hours of sleep every night. First and foremost, thank you for coming for part 1. I will definitely have you back for part 2 because I want people to understand how our brains work. And it tends to be like a lot of entrepreneurs are ADHD anyways to begin with, because we're kind of a rebel and our brain's kind of a lot more smarter in the public system. So, so where can all my listeners and any new customers come find you?
You can find me on Instagram at the Badass Academy or on my website, thebadassacademy.com. I'm pretty active on IG, so hit me up, send me a follow, let me know, hey, we found you on the podcast. I'll love to meet you and tell me your story and let's hang out.
No problem. Thank you very much. And I will be reaching out in about 2 minutes here on Instagram and get that all situated. So thank you very much on this and enjoy your 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock.
Amazing. So good to talk to you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Yeah. Bye.